Hey there, it's Joel Brown, master coach, speaker, and trainer. And today we are speaking into why you are overthinking and how this is limiting your success. Now, I personally have worked with thousands of people worldwide through events, retreats, summits, masterclasses, masterminds, and one-on-one. And what I've discovered is that there are 6 different procrastination types. Now, one of the types that tends to overthink the most, and just remember, everyone's on a spectrum. We can all experience this from time to time, but naturally this type, which is called the dread head, okay, the dread head, tends to lean the hardest into overthinking. And this is because they have this anticipation anxiety that starts to build. Now, if you don't know what your procrastination type is, you can just head over to doquiz.com. That's doquiz.com. Take the quiz, and what you'll find is you'll find your type. I'll send you a free report. There are 6 types. You're one of them for sure. And then it will teach you how to be able to repattern it. And if you want to go deeper into mentorship with me and be a part of an accountability group and have some really awesome tools so that you can unlock more success and create more in your life, then you can join the All Bliss Academy. Okay, that's AWEBLISS.com. Go there and check it out. Now, the anticipation anxiety is one of the biggest struggles for the dreadhead. This is when you have this perpetual state of worry about future events that are showing up and that haven't even happened yet, but you've created this scenario in your mind where you fear the worst happening, okay? And this can even be like a minor event or a routine that's about to show up. You've done it before maybe, but you're thinking that the worst thing could happen. And this keeps you in this anticipation anxiety. The second thing, like I said, is overthinking. Now, with the overthinking aspect, this is where you go into this habitual rumination of all these different possible outcomes. And the reason why the dreadhead does this is because you're trying to work out a way that you can control it. Stress, which is what you often feel as a dreadhead whenever you're facing new challenges or new tasks, or maybe you're in the midst of a task but you need to finish it. You have this stress that comes up, this anxiety. And stress is fear of loss of control. That's what stress is. So we all want to be able to have certainty, right? And if you are ruminating on this discomfort and this needing to know about what's going to happen in the future, it leads to this feeling of helplessness. And in this helplessness, this really fuels this narrative or this visual in our mind that we're going to have these undesirable outcomes. And that doesn't mean that it's true. It's just that what you ruminate on tends to expand in your mind. And so it lessens your performance. It lessens your discipline. And then you end up showing up half-assed or, low energy or low focus. And then obviously you bring forth that outcome. So this is why we want to be able to repattern this procrastination type. Another thing that can show up is physical symptoms, right? Like stomach aches, headaches, muscle tension, getting tight in the shoulders or tight in your lower back, or tightness and pressure around your temples, right? This happens when you're contemplating certain tasks or events and thinking of this uncontrollable thing that is about to come into play, right? And often what I do find on the back end of all this is that the dreadhead tends to look for confirmation from others about their potential, about their capacity to be able to handle all these up and coming events that you may have or the decisions that you've got to make. So you obviously don't want to have to lean on people all the time. This is where you lose your self-sufficiency. You want to be empowered, and you want to be able to be centered, and you want to be able to be focused and have clarity and know how to hold yourself accountable instead of like turtling in and staying in the comfort zone. Your current identity is your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is your identity, right? And in order to be able to meet your vision, in order to be able to achieve your goals, you got to stretch outside of that comfort zone so that you're able to grow, to reach, or to meet the goals that you desire. And this stretches your identity. It's like if I wake up in the morning and make my bed every morning, I walk out of the house knowing, feeling, and understanding that I am a disciplined person because I have proof in reality that I've been able to do it. It's just a small task, obviously, but because I keep doing those things, it builds my self-concept of how I view myself. And a lot of the time, the dreadhead tends to have a lower self-concept of themselves because they would rather self-preserve, right? To be in the safety zone, to be in the comfort, than to put themselves out there and be criticized, to be ridiculed, judged, if you want to put it in those words. They're pretty much all the same thing, but ultimately we view them as somebody is not happy with our work that we've done. So this is an avoidance technique to avoid pain. And if you want to be able to be successful in life, you want to be able to overcome those patterns. And that's what I teach in the All Bliss Academy. You can go to allbliss.com/membership. Have a look there, join. It's a 7-day free trial you get to jump into at the moment that we've got running, and you have mentorship from me, you have accountability group in there. It's a very powerful place to be able to grow and learn, right? But the reason why we overthink and stress, if you are a dreadhead, or you might have even just experienced these patterns, maybe a little bit of it, even if you are another type, is because of often past negative experiences that you might have had. So you have this like fear that the past is going to come back into play, that you're not going to know how to be able to handle it, right? And if you pair that with a lower self-esteem, like really judging yourself, am I able to have the abilities or the decision-making skills to be able to do this, then you're going to overthink your way to be able to compensate for these perceived deficiencies. And you might even believe that you need to think harder or longer to make a good decision. So this keeps you in analysis paralysis, as they call it, right? There's this big fear of regret that can be in play. And you don't want to put yourself out there and then say, yeah, look, I played that out in my mind and then the worst thing did happen. We do manifest, and I don't believe in all those super like hippy-dippy, woo-woo, fluffy stuff. I do believe that we can apply what we call the law of intention, set it and get it, put yourself out there, stick to it, commit to it, and make it happen. We do attract the things in the way that we show up, but I don't believe in sitting around and just hoping and wishing that it all comes in, right? But when we have a low self-concept of ourselves, we do end up really just building a low self-esteem, and it makes it harder for us to achieve our goals. Right? This fear of regret that you're going to stay in this negative cycle and it's not going to be the ideal outcome for you. This keeps you in this overthinking loop. So we want to be able to break that, right? We also can have a cognitive bias. And what I mean by that is you can often have these distortions in your mind where you think of catastrophes happening, right? Worst case scenario, as I mentioned before, but we personalize it, believing that these events are actually directly related to us. And we have this very black and white thinking when we're in these sort of thinking patterns. And this can really exacerbate the overthinking, right? So it keeps you ruminating. And then you get to a point where you have this decision fatigue. Like, hey, if I have too many choices or I don't know which one to pick, then you're going to get yourself into a place of inaction where you're just not taking action, right? Because you're just overwhelmed. So we want to be careful of these patterns showing up for us, or at least be mindful of this showing up for us so we can make a change, right? And a number of ways to really counteract this, and I go into all of it into the All Bliss Academy. You'll be able to counteract all those patterns and unlock so much creativity and centeredness and power so that you can live a better life. But just on the surface, what we're looking at here is stepping into some mindful practices, right? So getting in and staying present, bring yourself back to the now rather than living in the fear of repeating the past or a perceived pain of the future, worrying about what could happen in the future. You want to also set time limits for decision making. So instead of ruminating on it for days, you just say, hey, by 3 o'clock this afternoon, I need to make a decision. I get to make a decision. And you can even set a timer or an alarm for that so that you're just not deliberately staying in an overthinking loop, right? Another thing you can do is you can focus on what you can control. Remember I said stress is fear of loss of control. What can you control that is going to be able to be a good stepping stone for you to be able to achieve growth and progress. You don't have to be perfect, but achieving growth and progress is good for your self-concept because you're somebody that follows through and does what they say they're going to do. So keep building your self-esteem so that you're able to trust yourself more in making decisions. But if you continue to entertain this overthinking loop and stay in the comfort zone, all it does is just lowers your self-esteem more and more, right? I would say another powerful technique or tool to be able to start to repattern is you want to schedule what we call worry time, right? So if you're sitting there all day worrying about what's coming in the future, or maybe it's an event or a task or a social gathering, or you've got to do something for your business and you're just keeping yourself in that place, then set aside some time and make it like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes. And with that 20 minutes, I'm going to schedule in worry time. And this is where you get to sit down and you get to get really clear on, okay, what am I worried about the most? And you might journal this, or you might just draw like a graph and say excited about and worried about. And what you want to do is you want to just really look at like, what am I ruminating on? What am I postponing? And what would be a great solution for that? Who could I reach out to and ask for support? Is there a video that I can watch on YouTube that will teach me how to be able to move through that? Am I just beating myself up and being my own worst enemy, right? Your brain and your mind, which is a brain in action, the way you're thinking responds well to self-care. And this is a process of self-care. For you to sit down and actually be on your own team is very supportive for your self-esteem. And so it helps you to come out of that perceived hole that you're in to be able to really start moving forward and making progress, right? Also, just accepting that some things are going to be uncertain. That's another technique we could look at. The fact that you could make a mistake is very real, right? And acknowledge that in the past, yeah, okay, maybe you made some mistakes, but you can learn from those lessons. And this is a great way to allow yourself to be human, okay? One more thing I'd say is just focusing on your breath. When you feel yourself going into stress, it's because your body's trying to take charge. It's out of control. It's trying to do its own thing. But you want to regulate your nervous system. Close your eyes. Take a big, deep breath in. Hold, and then out through the mouth. But with your teeth closed, right? So it sounds like you're letting out a tire. What you're doing is you're taking control back over your breath. Your mind follows the body, right? Your body follows the mind. It just depends on which one's going first. If you're allowing your body to go into it, then really what's happening is your amygdala is going into this fear activation. And you want your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive part of your brain, to take over and say, hey, consciously I choose this, to come back into the present moment rather than fear the past or worry about the future, okay? And it starts to center your breath. It slows down the mind so you can think clearly. It slows down the heart rate, and that way you're not overstimulated or irrational, right? You start making rational decisions. So anyway, if you want to learn more about the procrastination types, go to doquiz.com, take the quiz. I don't know if you are the dreadhead, you got to take that quiz. It only takes 3 to 4 minutes to take the quiz to find out your type. You'll get a free report sent to your email. Have a look. We have the Overthinking Academy if you want to go deeper into support with me, get mentorship. We have a 31-day planner specifically for your procrastination type that you're going to be able to follow each day to be able to start reprogramming those unconscious patterns that have come probably from childhood or early on in your life that you've carried throughout your whole life that's limited you from being successful and living the freedom-filled life, fulfilled life that you desire. Okay, so make sure you jump onto that. And thank you. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like and share this video. And I'll see you on the other side.